Hello, dear tea friends from around the world. Welcome to a new interview with Ronald Chapdelaine. Today, we are both in Taiwan and in the United States. Ronald Chapdelaine is a longtime tea friend who has started a company called Stealth Naked Kombucha. And like me, actually, he's been doing tea for 20 years, over 20 years, but he's focused on something a little bit different from what we usually explore in this channel. It's kombucha. So before I try to make sense of what it is, I let Ronald make a presentation of what is actually kombucha. Please, Ronald.
Hi, Stefan. Thank you for having me. Kombucha is pretty simple. It's essentially a tea that's fermented with a culture, and it allows the tea to be transformed into what we call kombucha, which has the same properties as tea, as you know, all the antioxidants and the vitamins. But additionally, from the transformation, kombucha yields additional nutrients like organic enzymes, probiotics, um, as well as the vitamins and antioxidants, and even has pH buffers, which the body utilizes to regulate the body pH. So
So,
it essentially is tea, but it's fermented, much like anything
like,
else is fermented.
like yogurt, like yogurt transforms milk into yogurt. These enzymes, these cultures, they transform tea then into kombucha. Is that right?
Yes, correct. Essentially, the same idea. So it's this transformation that yields different microbiotic properties that the body thrives on.
Mm.
But at its basic level, it's tea, and my kombucha is not flavored with anything additionally. It's just essentially the tea that's been fermented. I usually ferment it for 3 weeks, give or take a couple of days, and then I will bottle the kombucha, and then I will also let it cure for an additional 60 to 90 days to give
Mm.
this elixir the chance to settle down and all come together. So sort of like a good spaghetti sauce. A good spaghetti sauce is always better the day after because it's had
Mm.
time to calm down. So I find, and I don't know of anybody else who lets their product cure for 60 to 90 days. But I really find that it's essential to really bring everything together and to create that perfect balance that every people are really looking for in a really great kombucha.
Mm. I'm thinking of one product where they go to great lengths, and it has a similar property to your product. It is champagne. Really, the great champagnes are kept in caves in Epernay for several years, and even turned a bit every now and then to make sure that the bubbles really are at their finest, and what really makes champagne bubbles great compared to other similarly bubbly wines is the quality of their bubbles. And in this regard, I have to say that I had a personal experience with your kombucha that you had really the generosity to send me. I opened once a bottle and because it's so good, I did not want to waste it, so I only drank half of it, and then I put it back in the fridge, and really I did not want to drink it right away, and I really waited for several weeks, and usually with any other uh, soft drink, if the bubbles, they go quickly away. Even champagne, actually, when you open the bottle, the bubbles are gone after a few days. But with your kombucha, I closed it well. I closed the bottle well, and after several weeks, maybe even a month, if I remember well, it was still bubbly inside. It was really amazing. And I think the reason is because you are not doing a filtering of your, or maybe it's not a complete filtering of your kombucha. So there are still some some a bit harder residues inside. So it continues to live. I had really the sensation that this bottle of kombucha was really still alive, and that it had regenerated its own bubbles on its own. Could this be possible?
Uh, Definitely, and I think you're right on target. My product, the carbonation, which essentially is the bubbles. It's all natural, and you'll find a lot in the kombucha industry. I'd say maybe 90% of the industry. They inject artificial carbonation. I can't elaborate on that. I don't know why, but I don't inject any artificial carbonation. It's really not part of my approach, and so it's all natural carbonation, and natural carbonation, of course, is just natural. So it's going to be there in day one, and hopefully it'll be there in day 10 or day 30. So it takes a lot of time to get the process down to a science when you're really dealing with tea, carbonation, the metabolic properties, trying to get the balance between this culture, which assists in the transformation, the yeast and the bacteria that's involved in the transformation. And, it's all about the balance. And when the balance is good, the kombucha, it has not only the balance in terms of the metabolic properties, but it has the balance in terms of the carbonation. And when, you just let Mother Nature do her thing, I think, the time that it takes and the patience that it takes and the years and years of trial and error, it all comes together sooner or later. And, so I think that this carbonation is definitely what you elaborated on, but it's also part of the natural process that I kind of am so dedicated to. Just letting the Alexa transform as it was a couple of thousand years ago to our Paleolithic ancestors, because that's really where this kombucha originates from, is going back centuries. So I try and replicate what they did a couple thousand years ago, instead of worrying about computers and artificial approaches that work, but you can tell the difference at the end of the day.
Now, the other thing, actually, the elephant of the room, what we have not mentioned yet, is that the tea involved in the making of this kombucha, you now are sourcing it from me, from TeaMasters. So thank you very much for it, and it's also part of your research to find out what is the best, what are the best ingredients to make your kombucha. The water also is very important for you. If you go on the kombucha website, I will put the links in the description below of this video. You will be able to have the access to this website, and you will see that Ronald is really dedicating each, paying very much attention to each detail. So not only the tea, but even the water, he's sourcing very carefully. And for the teas, you have chosen specific teas from my selection. Could you please tell my audience which teas in particular you have chosen?
Well, some of the teas, they're really part of my secret. So I really hate to elaborate on specifics, but I think your teas are, you can narrow it down to, oolong tea, and black tea, and red tea. And sometimes I'll even blend in a little bit of Japanese tea, like a good sencha. So I think that the important thing is that what I found with your teas, they really are world class. They're balanced, they're authentic, and you can tell in the brew. Um, but you have to take all things into consideration. You can have a low quality tea with great water, and try and make it work, and it'll be fabulous, or the other way around. So it's really it's not about this tea works, this tea works. It really is about trial and error, and trying, not only with the teas but with the water. I mean, do you use hard water, or do you use soft water? Do you use water with this kind of mineral content or this kind of mineral content? Do you boil it? Do you not boil it? If you do boil it, is it soft boil or hard boil? All the properties that are very important in brewing tea is how I approach my kombucha. So, and it's very difficult because, brewing kombucha, of course, if I'm going to offer you 4 or 6, 16 bottles, or chip out 20 cases, at the beginning I had to steep that tea, and I cannot steep the tea in a Nishin clay pot. Um, but I
Of
can.
course.
I found that throughout the years, by watching your videos and by learning and by visiting Taiwan. I've been to Taiwan twice, and I met with tea farmers, and learned about the process. And so I think the process of tea is sort of identical to how the Buddhist monks talk about tea. It really is an art. And it's an art that, really can never be mastered. You're learning about it your entire life. And so it's not about just this tea will work, and forget about it. But, it's taking an approach of different teas, different steeping strategies, and, water strategies, and, how long you steep it. All these factors are crucially important to getting to that balance, just like when you're steeping tea in a Nishin pot and enjoying it. And what's amazing about tea is amazing to me about tea is that how it's incorporated into culture, and in art, and in music. So, I take my tea very seriously, and, it really is all about tea. So that's really what I'm really obsessed about, is trying to get the best teas and trying to yield the best steep that I can out of them.
So let's to this part. Let's finish the talk and let's start the experiment. So thanks to your generosity, I have here a bottle from 2021. It was bottled on my birthday.
And that was not planned, but
that was not planned. That's really the serendipity of all this. How it shows how everything is connected in life. So that really it was not by a coincidence that you and me would find each other. So let's taste this. Oh, as soon as I open, I can see some bubbles forming and showing up.
well, it looks so good. I wish I was.
Yeah, a nice foam has formed on top, very fine bubbles. It smells. For me, really, it reminds me of one of my favorite drinks, which is apple cider. And drinking a lot of tea, when I drink this, I really don't have I don't relate it first with tea. I first relate it with apple cider. Really, so sweet and so fruity it is, and it has really mellowed down compared to the newer version. This 2021 has really mellowed down. It's very smooth, very sweet undertones, and it has also a nice texture, a sweet coating on the palate. And the very first time I drank your kombucha, my first reaction was, "Oh, this is so sweet. It cannot be. It must be a lot of sugar in it." And then you told me that in one bottle of kombucha there are 2 grams of sugar. This compares with over 50 grams of sugar in a similar bottle of Coca-Cola. So there's 25 times less sugar in your kombucha than in a soda from the industry. And but the feeling for me is almost the same. I feel it's so sweet, just almost like a soda drink, but actually it is much less sweetened. All this sweetness comes from the natural ingredients that are good water and the tea and the culture that has done its end time, that all have done their work. As you said, you keep it. Here it was cured for 71 days. Your labels are very precise in this regard. I really love all the information that you give.
Yeah.
I also can know that the pH here is 2.97. So it seems very acidic, but it's very sweet on the tongue. So my reaction to this is it's like a non-alcoholic cider, and it is really very refreshing. So now that's why I also wanted to do this interview in the middle of summer, because it's such a great drink when it's so hot out there, and so refreshing.
Yeah, if I may elaborate on the sweetness, the sweetness, it's not a candy-like sweetness, like in a tonic or a soda. The sweetness actually comes, it's part of the fermentation process. And the fermentation process takes away a good amount of the actual tea flavor. But when you have, bottles and bottles at a time, you can begin to tear through the layers of the kombucha and really taste and feel the undertones of the tea. But it takes a lot of work and a lot of experience. But elaborating on the sweetness, the sweetness, it's not candy-like sweetness. And, this is fermented right to the edge. So there really is hardly any amounts of sugar remaining. So the sweetness is coming really from the organic acids, and the organic acids are really the key to kombucha. Most people think that probiotics are this is what the drink is all about, but it really is about all the organic acids, because the acids are the properties that detoxify the body organs, and especially the liver. And these acids have the ability to bind to the toxic metals that are in our bodies, naturally, just from the environment, and transport them out. Elaborate a little more on that. Acids, some of them have world-class flavors, like lemon and like apple cider and like sweetness. But some have very foul tasting, like acetic acid is a rather weak acid, but it's the main ingredient in vinegar. So, again, it's all about the balance and trying to create the right acids in this transformation process. And the acids that I go after, the more of the stronger acids that have more of the ability to, detoxify the body organs. And these acids that I'm, trying and target, they're by nature just very sweet, and it doesn't have any properties of the sweetness and you know the artificial sweetness in like a Coca-Cola or something like that. So it
Now,
they
let me add one thing, because maybe some people might wonder, why is there sugar in kombucha? Because in the tea that we usually prepare, Gongfu style, we don't add any sugar. However, in order to have the cultures work, they need some energy. So you have to add sugar as an energy, so that they have a catalyst, so that they have some energy to work on. Otherwise, if you only add culture to tea, there's no transformation that can happen. Is that correct? How I understand it?
Yeah, that's right on the money. And you know, the sugar is only introduced into the tea. So in essence, at the beginning of your process, you know, you really make sweetened tea. You'll steep your tea and then you'll add a little bit of sugar. But this sugar is not to really sweeten the tea. It's to aid in this transformation of tea to kombucha and turning it into a living beverage. And the only way to get this transformation is by energy. Just like you and I are having this conversation, and we're blinking our eyes and we're moving our hands and we're speaking, and this takes energy. And you know, as humans, we have the ability to produce our own sugar. But in kombucha, you know, this living elixir, it doesn't have the ability to have it produce its own sugar. So we have to introduce its sugar to aid it in this transformation. In this transformation, and it uses this sugar for energy, to grow, to reproduce, and to eliminate in the form of CO2. And you know, your goal of hopefully any kombucha brewer is not to have any residual sugar once the fermentation process is over with. And so that's why, you know, I always really try and take the fermentation process right to the edge, because number one, there's no residual sugar. Number two, it yields the highest metabolic properties. And number three, it really adds to the you know, the body of the kombucha. And you know, that's something that you elaborated on earlier when you noticed that the liquid seemed that there was a nice presentation. You know, so there is body to this. And body is very important in tea.
Mm-hmm. So, sorry, I'm drinking again because it's so good. It's so nice. And you also came up with the name Stealth Naked Kombucha, and and the stealth stands for stimulate true energy and longevity that heals. So I think it's a very nice way of putting all your thoughts into one word.
Yeah, you know you know, I didn't go through any consulting marketing agency. You know, the name was created a long time ago, and you know, it is an acronym. And a lot of people ask me, you know, what is stealth? You know, what does it really mean? And you know, even after trying my kombucha, I said, well, you know, did you read the bottle? You know, it actually is an acronym. Stimulate true energy and longevity that heals. You know, well, what's the bomber means? You know, and the bomber is just it kind of simulates it, and it supports my mantra. You know, stealth fights for your health, and so that bomber kind of simulates you know, the fighting action. And, you know, so you know, there's an acronym and there's a mantra, and you know, it all comes together, and you know, I think it's balanced.
Mm. Yeah, and it's really in the sense that I also try to promote that food is what is helping us to stay healthy. It's not medicine. Medicine is if you are really already sick. But what is our goal is not to cure from sickness. Is not to get sick at all. That's the a much better way of
Indeed.
living a long and happy life is by preventing the diseases to happen, and tea is a good way, and kombucha when you feel like a cool drink that has a lot of energy, these fine bubbles. I find it also very, very pleasant in the summertime. And so you are shipping mainly to the United States. Who can purchase your kombucha?
Um, we have our website. You could contact me through the website. My product is also available retail locations, mostly in New England, but predominantly, given the high quality aspect about my product, it doesn't do as well in the retail stores because let's face it, if somebody can buy a $4 bottle of kombucha, they'll probably buy it before they buy an $8 or $9 bottle of kombucha, not knowing the process or what's involved. Just by nature, people tend to buy something that's on the lower scale of price than something higher. So
I have purchased some locally made kombucha, and it is like night and day. I will not even put these two bottles next to each other because they don't compare in any way.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
yeah, it's always, I can compare Lipton with my teas, but I would not compare this locally made kombucha that I have tasted with your kombucha. The difference is even much different. It's much more different than that. As
yeah,
you said, you don't use artificial flavoring. You don't use artificial carbonation, and you also don't use colorings. So your product is really completely natural, and it feels, whereas the cheaper versions of so-called kombucha that I could try, nothing was wrong, nothing was right. Everything was tampered with. So you don't know exactly what is wrong, but you once you had this one, they don't. Yeah, you cannot compare. So
yeah.
and
Well, thank you. I'm glad. I mean, coming from you, that really means a lot to me. Uh, Given your expertise and knowledge and passion about tea. It really is all about the process, and I think to really be good at kombucha, you really need to be good at tea. Otherwise, you're not steeping it well, and if you're not steeping tea well, then it's kind of difficult to break open those cellular walls to extract the essential oils out of the tea, and that really is our goal, isn't it? We're after those essential oils in the tea so that they can yield their hints of flowery bouquets of nuts, seeds, grasses, and this is what we're after. So it's kind of hard to do it when you're steeping tea in a 300-gallon stainless steel tank, as opposed to a 1-gallon ceramic crock, where you're trying to retain that heat between steeps, and it really makes a difference. And your teas, I really need to elaborate how good your teas are and how well they not only adhere to my approach, but I mean, I can get 9 or 10 steeps out of your tea. And when you're brewing kombucha, you really don't have to steep your tea as strong as when you're steeping regular tea. But I can easily get 9 or 10 steeps out of your tea, and there's still color, there's still flavor. Now it's minimized at that extent of steepings, but the color is still there. There's a little bit of flavor still there. So I'll take these 10 steeps and then I'll put it all together. So it's not like it's not traditional tea drinking. Like I'll make a first steep and then have the tea and then do a second steep. I'll do 10 steeps and then I'll blend them all together. So at the end of the whole process, I've got one tea, essentially kind of like one steep, made from 10 steeps. And that's really how I do it. And I steep it in 1 gallon, only 1 gallon ceramic crocks. And these have the ability to really retain the heat, which is important between steeps.
So this is really handcrafted. It's not a mass-produced product. I see really you take great care in the selection of your ingredients, in the selection of the water, even on how you make it. Only 1 gallon per size. That's really very small. The bottles you use also are glass. They are perfect to retain these bubbles over time. Your caps also are very interestingly designed. If we can see, they have a very good way to fit on the bottle, and when even shipped to Taiwan, there was very little problem with the kombucha getting overflowing. It arrived in very good condition. So this is what allowed me to try and taste your kombucha today. Thank you very much for this, Ronald. And I hope that more people especially in New England and the northeastern part of the United States, will go on your website to order some of your kombucha and discover what real kombucha tastes like. Thank you very much for your time and your introduction, and thank you again for your kombucha fun.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.